But for those of us who aren't there yet, this is that time we can work on our business and do the right research. And on that same website, sba.gov/international, there's a export business planner that it's an interactive tool that I suggest everyone take a look at, because it has worksheets and it has so many resources, even on financing your exports, that most of us, again, when you read this information, you're not going to know what questions to ask, and it's going to ask those questions, and it's going to answer them for you. Then it's going to help you organize your thoughts as you do plan to your approach. So Minister Akbar is here, and I don't want to take up any more time and allow him to come and speak. And we'll do a question and answer part at the end, so if there's any questions, just hold them.
Is there anything about investment? You said you're going to leave that at the end?
Yeah. Okay. We can talk about that.
What's your name again, sir?
Yusef Muhammad. And I think I have some cards, and I'll be able to guess me. So without further ado, Mr. Akbar, is ready?
Yes, sir.
I want to bring up international travel.
Yes, sir.
Brother that's been
Yes,
to
sir.
over 154 countries and a historian. We have a treat. Mr. Abdul Akbar.
First, I want y'all to excuse my glasses. I have an eye problem, and so I need the shade on. I'd like to thank you. Is this okay? Very good. I'd like to first start, as is customary for a Muslim, and we may have some non-Muslims here, that anything that we do in life, we believe that we should begin in the name of God.
Yes, sir.
Muslims always say, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, means in the name of God, the beneficent and merciful. I want to thank Allah for blessing me with being Denver this evening. And we're traveling around the country. Every city that we go into, we have an advocate to talk primarily to our people, but a few cities, of course, we are at a convention, so we have some Caucasian guests. And so I try to make my presentation in a way that they can get something from it, and I won't beat up on them too bad. We had one of our brothers who used to say, if there were Caucasians in the audience, he would say, put on your seatbelt, buddy. It's going to be a rough ride.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But let me first of all thank the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan,
Yes, sir.
who I have known since 1961. That's when I first met him, when he was coming to New York with Malcolm to go out of town. Malcolm would always bring in ministers that could keep our tremendous mosque at that time full of people. And it was during the beginning of the civil rights movement, and young people wanted to get involved. And those of us who lived in the northeast corridor of America, New York, Boston, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., we had a certain outlook of what was happening in the South. And what we frowned on generally among the young people, when I first became a Muslim, I was 18 years old. And the outlook was that we couldn't turn the other cheek and pray for those who despitefully use us.
Right.
We're just a real Negro. We had a different take on that. And so in that, we felt that something different should be done. And so that's why many of us got involved in the liberation struggle and black movements. And in the history of the Islamic world, there are things that started with Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, 1400 years ago. And one is that those who know something about the faith, that he started in Mecca, which in the, I hope that I can do this. This is Saudi Arabia right here. And Mecca, Jeddah is on the coast. Mecca is 40 miles in. And this is where he started at. And then after the persecution of those who believed in this faith became so strong, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, sent some of the Muslims out of Mecca away from the persecution of the people who ruled Mecca. He sent a group to Abyssinia, today known as Ethiopia, and the people there received him. And he tried to stay as long as he possibly could, but then he eventually had to leave Mecca, and he had to go north to a city called Yathrib, later became Medina. In Arabic, the word Medina actually means city, and they called it the city of the prophet when he moved there. And when he moved there, what was important in the 10 years of revelation from God is we believe that he learned to set up commerce and trade. He started as a trader. He was employed by a woman named Khadija, and they sent caravans to Syria. This is Syria that's in the news today tremendously. And they would bring goods back and forth, trading. And when he got to Medina, he encouraged the Muslims in commerce because they had to make money in order to sustain their belief. One of the first things that they did is they built a school called a madrasa. And the school was to educate the children, but the school had to be supported, so it took commerce. So sometimes people, when they study Jesus and so forth, they leave off the commercial side because they don't know anything about it.
Right.
But the trading and commerce and selling and moving of merchandise, the accumulation of wealth, so that they could build their society. They had to build their first mosque in Medina. And many of you know the story of that first mosque. It was built and how the camel that he rode on, because in this desert area, people rode camels. That was their way of transportation. And he let the camel go when he got there, and where the camel sat down is where he built the first mosque. But it took bricks and, mortar, and took the wood that they put to support the building. All of that was commerce. And people sometimes get so spiritual that they leave off the commerce.
Right.
They think that man can make it just by the word of God, but it takes some bread in order to make it.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
That's right.
Yes, sir.
Our trip with Brother Yusuf that you heard from, Brother Earl, who was in the back, and I want to thank Brother Earl. You may not have been at the presentation today, but he's involved in commerce. I met him when he made his first trip to Africa with me. He was pursuing commerce, and we have to do that. When integration came, we had already set up in cities because they segregated us and isolated us, so we had to do for ourselves. We had to set up our own little grocery stores, trade and buy, and it developed us as a people. Then integration came in, and we were so happy to get with white folks and go to their place. I mean, we had a slave mentality. We even wanted to give them our money. And in modern times, we protest to give them our money. If we can't go in there to this store, we protest because we want to give them our money. But it's a sick mentality. Oprah was in Europe, and she went to buy this $38,000 or $68,000 bag. And there was a big protest because the woman in the place in Switzerland, I believe, didn't want her money, didn't even want her to come in the store. Told her, don't look at the bag. But we protested because we wanted to give them our money. So it shows you it's a sick mentality. And we have to get away from that and say that we can do it ourselves. We can rely on ourselves. So I'm taking the scenic right to tell you about this tour. We're on a tour with the Small Business Administration. And I appreciate what they're doing because they have pumped a lot of money. It's a free expo. People set up their business there, a consultant, how to access money, how to be successful in business, how to write a book on business and so forth. Mainly Caucasians. And when we did New York and Washington, We had a good amount of black people who were entrepreneurs and wanted to know a better way to do business. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad started with business.
That's right.
When he was released from prison, and he first went to Detroit, and then he moved from Detroit, things were bad, he moved to Chicago.
Right.
But in Chicago, he opened a small grocery store. And in that grocery store, he was putting food items on shelves. He would buy them wholesale and resell them. And the money that he earned in the grocery store, depending on the Muslims that come there and support their own, he used that money to further the cause of Islam.
Right.
To open a school and hire teachers.
Go ahead,
and so
go ahead,
forth.
go ahead.
So, you know, you should never look at business. You don't have no time for business. You better have some time for it. Otherwise, you will always be dependent on the establishment and the bottom line dependent on white folk.
Right.
When your children are in school, don't say, boy, stay in school so you can get a good job. I grew up in New York. And when I was a young Muslim in New York, I used to listen to the conversation about the older Muslims. And one of them was, young man, stay in school so you can get a good job, like working in the subway and driving a bus or working in the post office. That's why Negroes say, I worked in the post office for 30 days, never took a day off. Well, you a damn fool. You should have took a day off to get yourself together. But the mentality was, I got to work for the man because you were a slave.
Right.
And you say, well, there's no job. There's always a job for a good Negro.
Right.
Okay, you can always get a job, but you should look to do business.
Right.
Trade and commerce and use your knowledge.
Yes,
So
sir.
I'm going to talk about that a little. I'm on a mission as we travel around the country. And a part of my mission is to put a map of Africa in every black man and woman's home. And you say, why? Because I want you to move that Kardashian and Kanye picture over that you got on the wall. Or that picture, brother, you got of Nicki Minaj on your wall. Move it over and put a map of Africa on your wall.
Right.
So that you can teach your children about the continent that they came from.
Right.
We sell these maps for $15.
Yes, sir.
And when you leave, you can pick up one, frame it, put it on, and then learn something about it. Because the business with Africa, before China entered the picture, the largest trading partner, which a lot of people don't know, with America was Africa. America was supplying them with things other than weapons. Imagine 54 countries, all of them have arms. The little country down here of Lesotho and Swaziland, real small country, or the little country of here, Djibouti, or the little country over here of the Gambia, right here. These are very small countries, but every one of them have an army, and every one of them buy weapons. America was supplying weapons and goods and all that they needed for building, road supplies, building roads for them. It was the biggest trading partner. And now with 1 billion people on the African continent, it's open for commerce and trade and commercial things that you can do with Africa. So when your children get up in the morning and go to the map of Africa, you can say, where is Madagascar? Your children say, right here.
Right.
And you'll
Come
say,
on.
where is Kenya, the country that Barack Obama's father came from? And you point to this country of Kenya,
Right.
East Africa. Where the problem country right now, Somalia, with all of the problems. Where's Somalia? They can point to, where's Egypt, where the black man built the pyramid?
Right.
They go to the map and say, here's
Come on.
Egypt. Egypt is in Africa. The white world or the Western world wanted to make Egypt a part of Asia. Or some strange terminology called the Middle East.
Right.
Okay, they say the Middle East. And so they put Egypt in the Middle East. They make you think Libya's in the Middle East. But all of this is in Africa.
Right.
As a matter of fact, there are some of our brothers that believe that all of this is Northeast Africa. Where you have Jordan and Israel or Palestine.
Go ahead.
It's Northeast Africa. So here's West Africa, where the slave trade. We're taking a trip or a trade delegation. And Earl, did you give out that information earlier? So if you have a pen, you can write it down or you can see the brothers. If you go online to ustradedelegation.com, ustradedelegation.com, and open it up, it will give you information of how you can travel to Africa. I'm going to get into the business aspect, but bear with me a minute. because you know I've been a preacher for nearly 50 years of my life. So,
Yes, sir.
but in that, you'll see that we're taking a trade delegation. And if there's some business that you want to do, and I always tell people, they say, well, what business should I do in Africa? Most people say, I want to buy some gold. When you think of Africa, you think of South Africa, there's tremendous gold reserves, or you think of Ghana. South Africa's first, Ghana is second, and then gold is found all over Africa. Burkina Faso, Mali, and all of these countries, gold. And the standard of exchange in the future, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad writes in Fall of America, it's not going to be the American dollar that we chase all the time, but it will probably be gold.
Yes, sir.
Standard, because it doesn't lose its value. You know, the supply of gold, and people are putting things in gold. But I wanted to say that because I wanted you to know that there's business opportunities in Africa. And the business opportunities, as people would ask me, what business should I go in? What business do you do right now? Or what business do you envision yourself doing? There's a place for it in Africa. And many black men and women can be consultants. In the military, the trainers in the military, most of them are black soldiers who do the most training in the military. And you can ask anyone, you're a tremendous police force. Earl, could I have you to come up here and take this? That was my telephone ringing. Thank you very much. Most of your police force have strong black men. And if I was a retired police sergeant, or if I was a retired person from the military, I could go and get a contract with countries in Africa to train their military. I'm just saying. Then you have hospital workers, and you have a tremendous amount of teachers in America, retired teachers. In Africa, they are sought after. They're looked for. They want to get people. And Brother James, in your business, you know, you do oil drilling and so forth. There's a tremendous opportunity in Africa because the resources that are still in the ground in Africa could rebuild Europe again and America. Right here is a country called the Democratic Republic of the Congo. You know it in the old days as Zaire.
Right.
And before that, the Belgian Congo.
Right.
And because this piece of real estate was owned by the King of Belgium. He owned all of this and killed millions of our people in slave labor camps. But this piece of real estate right here can rebuild the West all over again. Still left in the ground. It's like they can't exhaust it. I don't care how much they dig out of it. There's a country here called Zambia. The greatest copper mines in the world are found in this country, and copper is a needed mineral in the Western world and in the Eastern world, but it's found right there in Africa. The sea coast right here, you went to see Captain Phillips in the movie. How many saw that?
Yes, sir.
It was about what they call pirates.
Pirates.
In East Africa, coming from the country of Somalia. The longest sea line to a sea, and this is the Indian Ocean, is in Somalia. It was a tremendous, unbelievable fishing ground. And the Somalians earned their living by fishing, and they exported the fish to other countries in Africa, but they fished here. And then when the tankers began to come with the oil, and they would go through Aden and up through the Suez Canal into the Mediterranean Sea and sail out through the Straits of Gibraltar and come to America, they messed up their fishing ground. Then a leader called Siad Badri, and that's where this map over here comes in. This map right here is the leaders of Africa, all 54 countries. And if you go to Somalia, I can't see Somalia here, but if you go to Somalia, they're in alphabetical.
Third from the bottom to the left.
Bottom to the left.
Third from the bottom to the left. Going up.
Yeah.
I'm closer to you.
Yeah, closest to you.
There we go. Right there.
Right here?
Yes, sir.
Okay, if you go to this country of Somalia, it shows the beautiful part of this map. If you're teaching children and yourself, you can go to when it became independent. Who was the former colonial master there? The Italians were there, they ruled for a while. And then it has all of the leaders. One of them you'll see who stayed in power the longest was a leader named Siad Badri. And Siad Badri knew that Chevron had came in and found oil, but they didn't bring the oil up. and it's on land. It's not in the ocean. And they cap the wells. And all you have to do to research it, to verify what I'm saying, is Google Chevron oil in Somalia. And they will tell you all about it. But the oil here was in such a strategic place, and being that oil turns the wheels of the Western world. Imagine America. America cannot produce enough oil to supply what it needs in oil. At one time I knew how many millions of barrels a day that America needs to turn the wheels of industry and electric and so forth. And so they capped it because they wanted to hold on to it because it was in an excellent spot and use it when they were ready for it. And meanwhile, their oil supply from Saudi Arabia. But the reason that this was so valuable, it was a good oil, but they could sail it right through the Suez Canal out here to America, where the other oil has to come from this area, Iraq and Saudi Arabia, and it's more difficult. It had to get to the shoreline, then it had to sail around here, come all the way. And some of them at one time, when there was problems here, they would all go all the way around the Cape of Good Hope, around South Africa, and then sail out. So I'm just saying this, the value of Africa and you doing business. And think about it with your children. Your children are getting into technology now. Technology is the key. Africa is using technology that people don't even think of. They were using and transferring money by the cell phone long before you start doing it, when the cell phone hit. Why? Because they didn't have cable lines to run it, so it was cell phone towers. And in Kenya is one of the countries that they use the cell phone for all forms of business. People could be out in the fields and check the fields and so forth. So technology is the key here. So I'm going to talk about this for a minute because I'll trip around the country, and I thank Brother Yusuf, is about doing business. They say the cornerstone of America is small business. Most of us are in small business. Very few of us are in billion-dollar businesses in America. But small business is the cornerstone of America. In America right now, with a businessman in power, as I said at the hall today, that his business is overseas, his main business. You wonder why this kind of strange Russian talk. I mean, you sit in front of the television and it's difficult to follow it unless you know the backdrop. The backdrop is that a billionaire New Yorker, an arrogant New Yorker named Trump, does business overseas.
Yes, sir.
And one of the biggest places that he does business is in Russia. And so he's trying to balance it out. And when they said that it's a conflict of interest to be the most powerful political figure in the world, which is the President of the United States, and to be in business, so he had to put it into a trust. But the trust is run by his children.
That's right.
And so he wants to keep it going. So he went to Saudi Arabia, and it's very interesting. Saudi Arabia has an unbelievable history, and just Wednesday, today is what, Thursday?
Yes,
Yesterday,
sir.
the leader of Saudi Arabia, King Salman, Salman Abdul Aziz, coming from that family, he appointed his son, young son, 31 years old, as the crown prince. He's 81. When he dies, that young man will take over as the leader of Saudi. Because it is Ramadan, I'll have to come back to Denver at another time.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Because it is Ramadan,
Yes, sir.
and we break the fast soon. And those of us who are from the East, we have 2 extra hours.
Yes,
We
sir.
break the fast at 8:30.
Yes,
It's like
sir.
us breaking the fast at 10:30.
Yes, sir.
And that's a fast of 18 hours. And for those who may not know that much about Ramadan, but right before the sun comes up, we get some food. It's called sahur in the morning. We make our prayers, and we don't drink or eat anything all day long. So when the sun goes down, the Muslims have a special prayer called Peri Sundown. And so when the sun goes down, that was a joke. You're supposed to
Yes, sir.
Peri Sundown. So that we can eat. So I cannot be long-winded.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But this is a fascinating history. I love it. I have a passion for history. But I want to see you talk to the new generation of your children. Stay in school, get your education, pursue what you want so that you can open a business for yourself.
Yes, sir.
So you can be independent. An independent person can think.
That's
They
right.
can
That's
manage
right.
their time. They're not a slave to a time clock.
Right.
They're committed to their own business, making their own resources, and we have to preach that. If you don't preach it, the child goes to school and all they think about is getting their degree so they can get a job. They got job fairs.
Right.
You go to a job fair and you
Right.
take your resume
Right.
and talk to the white folks who own big businesses about a position. And if you go into that, you should go in there with the idea that I'm going to learn.
Yes.
And take that knowledge and get out there as quick as I can
Yes,
and
sir.
open a business for myself.
Yes, sir.
That's the mindset that we have to teach to our children. Otherwise, they become a slave to a job.
Right.
And the difference between being on the plantation and this one, you get some money.
Yes, sir.
And then after you get the money, he turns around and puts his hand out.
That's
and
right.
you go
Take it
buy
right
that
back.
new Mercedes or that
Right.
BMW and take that money right
That's
back
right.
from you. So Africa, where they drug us out of Africa and the holes of slave ships, offer an opportunity. Also the Caribbean. The Caribbean has been America's playground. All of those beautiful islands that can grow tremendous produce and other things and can manufacture and do other things, they become America's playground where you go there to, in the hotel business, you work in the hotel, you master how to serve them and make them comfortable. But this is your country in the Caribbean. How many have parents in here from the Caribbean? Okay, what country in the Caribbean?
She's from Bermuda.
Bermuda. Bermuda is not in the Caribbean.
Oh, I'm
They
sorry.
disappoint. It's 680 nautical miles off North Carolina.
Yes, sir.
Straight out in the ocean. But it was dominated by black people. I don't want to teach the history of Bermuda right now. But right now it's the reinsurance capital of the world after 9/11. And all of the black people are being driven off the island because they can't afford to live there. And they're coming to America and going to other places. But Bermuda is an interesting dynamic. But the Caribbean offers the same opportunity on a smaller level than the continent of Africa with these 54 countries. So if you want to study it, you want to look at who was the former colonial master, the three important languages. If you go into Africa, number one is actually four. You have to look at English. And there's English-speaking countries all over Africa, East Africa, Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda. These are English-speaking countries in Africa. In West Africa, you have the Gambia, where Alex Haley found his roots.
Yes, sir.
Then you come down to Sierra Leone, Liberia, then Ghana. Then you go to the big one, 191 million plus people. And this piece of real estate right here is called Nigeria. And the important countries to the Western world in Africa, because of the drive for oil, has been Nigeria, where they fought a war called the Biafran War, where the Western countries wanted to break off this southern part, where Port Harcourt, because of the oil was found here, but they wanted it to be another country separated from the greater Nigeria so that they could control that country and control the oil. That is what happened with this country that you see here. You see this insert. The largest piece of real estate in Africa was the Sudan, but they broke the Sudan in half in 2011, and they lobbied for it year after year under the guise that they were being persecuted by the Northerners, who happened to be Muslims, and they were suffering, and they wanted their own freedom, but it was the United States who engineered the breaking up because the oil farm is in the southern Sudan. And the countries that they wanted to break up also, and they were successful in doing it, and murdered Muammar Gaddafi, because the two finest oils in the entire world are found in two countries. Who can name them for me? Libya and what? Nigeria. This has the best oil to be found. Why is it the best oil, Brother Akbar? Because it takes very little to refine. Very little. Yes, my brother.
I told you earlier that I was being recruited to go to Port Harcourt.
Right.
They told me that the oil, the ground was so rich in oil, you could walk across it, it was like walking on a sponge, and the oil was right at the surface.
Right. This is in the country of Nigeria. And so it's always been, you say, well, Nigeria is a real problem. It's a problem because the West keeps it in a problem, and that's what they do. They keep us fighting with each other.
That's right.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Yes, sir.
So if your son is going to college, or your daughter, courses you need to talk to them about petroleum engineering.
That's right.
Yes, sir.
You can write your own ticket. You can work in the world anywhere you want to, and you can negotiate what you want as a salary because of the lack of enough petroleum engineers in the world. They have this thing of fracking in America, and my brother knows all about it. And in America, because they want to be self-dependent with oil, they want to either get it out of Canada or somewhere else because they don't want to depend on Africa and the Middle East because it's a problem for them, and they know it. But imagine you have this tremendous wealth in your hand. So I want to close out on a few points. I'm going to open up the floor for questions, and we will be able to take questions for a little while and before we make our way to a restaurant to drink this fast. But Brother Herman, you and the study group coordinator, we can set up a meeting.
Yes, sir.
And you talk to Earl, we'll look at a schedule. And I happen to like Denver.
Yes,
You know,
sir.
and I don't like it because you can smoke weed, because I don't smoke weed, okay? But you call it the Valentine's City. And look at where the property is going right now.
You're right.
But I like Denver. In the old day, there was a brother named Keith Bray. He went to a college lecture and heard Minister Farrakhan. And anyone who has sit under his voice and heard him, whether you disagree with us or not, you cannot leave him untouched.
Right.
And what he says to you, you carry it. It's almost like something, it's like going to Africa. Once you put your feet on African soil, it never leaves your conscious mind.
Right.
It never leaves your conscious mind because there's a connection between you and Africa because it's where we came from. He heard the minister at a college. He came back here, he was touched and moved because Minister Farrakhan and his delivery of the message of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad moved black people.
Right.
You know, it made them take a look in the mirror at themselves and say, I can do better than this. As Barack Obama kept telling the American people, we're better than that. And he was trying to get them to put some restrictions on guns. And he kept going over it. But we look in the mirror and we are victims of dysfunctional families, alcohol, children abuse, you know, not being able to get ourselves together, but we're better than that. And so the minister's lectures made us to look at ourselves. I mean, and God has blessed him. You know that he's a gifted man. And you know that God has his hand on him by what he's able to do.
That's right.
How
That's
he
right.
touched you. So this brother heard the minister, came back to Denver. He was from here. And he went to work. He wasn't even a Muslim yet. But he brought people in and he began to talk to them. And eventually he became a Muslim and actually ran one of our first mosques here in Denver. And Denver is a beautiful city. You had a black mayor. I met him in Africa. He came down. Where? Right. I don't know how he's doing now, but I met him on a couple of occasions. And he came to Africa, and he was a strong black man to help his people. And when you become a mayor like that, there's a word that I used on the prayer line. The word was muzam, balance. You have to know how to balance your politics because you got white and black people.
That's right.
And then you got a lot of integrated couples that moved here because the environment was good for them, especially the brothers, to have a white wife or a white woman to have a black husband, and they came to Denver. So it's a great city, a lot of potential, and we would hope and pray that because of this shift in policy as it goes towards cannabis, that it doesn't change the nature of the city, and you just get people who want to smoke dope all day long and want to do it legally, okay?
Right.
So you have to fight that. You have to fight it with your children.
Right.
Keep them on what Muslims call the straight path, the mustaqim. And it takes a lot of strength to do that. You have to be an example for them. You have to encourage. We're not perfect. And the beautiful thing, and I'm going to close out and open the floor for you to ask questions. The beautiful thing about it is that in our faith, we have Rahman Rahim, the beneficent, the merciful. And God forgives you. We're not in a faith that you do something wrong and you condemn. You will go to hell. You will burn in hell. But God is forgiving because you're a human being. And you can lean too far to the right or to the left. But if you got God in the center of your life,
That's
and you
right.
call on Him, you can be forgiven and keep going.
Yes,
and
sir.
I love that about the faith of Islam. But it doesn't mean that you do something wrong, ask God's forgiveness, He forgive you, and you get on the path, and then you go do it again and come back and ask God, forgive me. But you got in your mind, I'm going to do it again. No. When God forgives you and puts you back on the path, ask for the strength to stay on that path.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you. May God bless you. Assalamu alaikum. Brothers and sisters, what I would like to do, this is a business seminar. If I don't have the answers, I have Brother Youssef and Brother Earl. And Brother Earl is a strong businessman, and I really lean on him. And to help me to keep up with myself and other things and moving around the country. But when Brother Youssef was invited to do this tour for his Business American Business TV, he asked us to come on the trip. And he invited me in the school that he works with in Houston to deliver a talk. I went there and I talked. He heard me. Because sometimes they think that the Muslims only can, teach. They don't have no other interest in just teaching people. But we are balanced people.
Yes, sir.
Right.
We gotta teach a little and work a little. And we are normal people. We have the very challenge that you have, getting them babies out of the bed in the morning, while we gravitated towards Islam. We don't want to see our brothers in prison. Look at the jails across America. And when I was Minister Farrakhan's helper in New York, I used to go to the prisons with him and sometimes for him. And to see that mass of black men and women sitting and rotting in those jails, it's heartbreaking. So we want to keep them from that. And so they need something in their life that will help them. And we feel that this will. So business is a good thing for you to look at because it gives you the ability of how to manage things. And you learn sometime on the job, but there's plenty of good books. Did you mention your book? Did you bring any of your books?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you mentioned it when you were speaking? Okay. And I have a table, I have a library at home, 3,000. When I went to my storage the other day, maybe I got 5,000 books. And I used to be in the book business in New York. And I must say it was Malcolm that encouraged me because when I was a young Muslim, whenever he would come to the rostrum, he would come with a book. And so I thought that he was so heavy because he was getting it all out of the book. I just felt that. And so I was encouraged. I went into the book business. My first book business was selling Holy Quran.
Yes, sir.
Because when you become a Muslim, you want a Holy Quran. This month of Ramadan, Muslims struggle to read the whole Holy Quran in that 1 month.
That's
But
right.
it doesn't mean that after Ramadan is over, which will end on Sunday, that you take the Quran and put it on the shelf and leave it there until next year. Okay, you got to go get it and read it some, and that's where I started at. And eventually I opened a bookstore at our mosque in New York. Beautiful mosque. Good long history. Maybe when I come back I'll tell you about it. And I started selling books, but not only did I sell, but I collected books. And I know that I just turned, one of my brothers said, never tell people your age, but I tell people because I am that age. I just turned 75 last Friday. I figured this, I got all of these books. I can leave them to my beautiful children, and I know their expression of love for me. I'm their father. And the difference of being a father and a husband, they can't divorce you if you're their father. They may be mad as hell at you, but they can't divorce you. So I know that my children would say, we're going to hold on when daddy goes, because you're born into the world and you die. It's the cycle of life. We all going to die. When you're 21, it's hard to think about that, but we all going to die. So I figured that all of these books I got, and I speak all over the country, and I'm trying to finish my biography. I had a little setback, my autobiography, I should say. And so I said, why don't I take my library of books and take them on the road itself? Because and turn them into liquid money to travel, to go around the country. So if you go to the table, you can look at the books, and they're not just books on Islam, they're diverse. I love reading, and they're books from all different areas.
Yes, sir.
And if you make a donation and buy the books, they're $1, $2, $3. And the ones that I really don't know if I want to let go, those are the ones that are $10. So they're at the table in the back. And I felt that I should turn my books into liquid, that's my saying. Because if I don't, my children will just put them away and eventually say that's daddy's junk, and they'll throw them away. And so the books are on sale, and the maps are on sale, and Brother Earl and Yusef will help you. His book on small businesses on sale. Yes,
excuse me, sir. I was thinking about what you were saying about your books, and you know, you have the Schomburg Center in New York, and they deal with library. I was like, maybe you could donate or start a foundation in your name, you know, and add more books to the Schomburg, you know, or put those amongst the books in the Schomburg, because that's what the guy was doing in the beginning, was finding books until he built the library. So I mean, you know, I'm quite sure the books you got, you know, can be added on, you know, to that library.
Thank you. Very good. That's where a lot of Malcolm's papers are.
Right.
That's another long history. But his daughters, we put them in a storage.
Oh, okay.
Right.
And you know how we do when we move like gypsies. That's why we must be akin to Bedouins that move around. But in West Africa, they're Fulanis. The Fulanis go from southern part of Mauritania, and they move all down Nigeria, and they just keep going back and forth.
Right.
But we move like that, and we put stuff in storage. And then we fall on some bad luck. We can't pay the storage bill. We got to make a decision to pay that Mercedes note or the storage, and the Mercedes always wins out. So we end up losing the stuff in the storage. And that's how Malcolm's daughter lost all of his stuff, all of his books, his notes, and everything. And if you know anything about this, when you go to a storage, that when they have the sale, they have them sometimes every 60 days. Some storage is 30 days. But usually it's 60 and 90 days. And you go down, they open and let you just look in, and they'll close it. Then you bid on it. And you don't know what's in there. So a white boy bid on that storage that his daughter had all of Malcolm's stuff, and he got it. And then a brother, attorney Fleming in New York, may God bless him, he passed away. They had to make a deal with him, and they brought it and they turned it over to the Schomburg. So in New York. I go there all the time to study when I'm in New York. I'm from there, so I know it quite well. So yes, I do feel that I have important papers and letters between the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and some of his ministers, and letters between Imam Muhammad. I have a lot of that, but I'm going to turn mine, brother. The ones that I feel that the library should have, I'll give it to them. But the rest of them, I'm going to turn into what we call liquid. You don't understand that money, so that we can move around and I can share things with
Yes, sir.
So I'm going to open the floor. We're getting near the time to make our way to the restaurant. They have what is called, Muslims, we call it iftar. And that's the breaking of the fast. We make a prayer, and then we sit down and eat. And then we get up early in the morning. I have to be on the prayer line tomorrow morning. And I want to mention to you, Saturday, Minister Farrakhan will close out the prayer line. So make sure you catch it on Saturday. I just talked to his secretary to make sure that we had the numbers and so forth. And he'll be on. So tomorrow morning at 3, I think, here. Is that 5 o'clock on the East Coast time?
Yes, sir.
3 in the morning here?
Yes, sir.
Are you right about that? Because I don't want to miss the prayer.
3 o'clock here, 5 o'clock East Coast.
And 5 Eastern, so I have to be up at 3 in the morning, and then we have a flight at 6, is that right? So, and we're fasting for Ramadan. So I want to take these questions and have the brothers to help me to make my way to that question.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'm opening the floor now. Yes, go right ahead.
Yes, sir, Brother Minister. I wanted to ask you, when you go into those countries and do business, the politics in the country, is there a way that we can understand what's going on with the government? Sometimes when you like you talk about consulting, and that's some type of business that me and brother Jimmy Simmons going into the environment of the government is sometimes it's get ready to change. How do we find out if it's going to be good for us?
Okay, that's a good question. Contemporary politics in Africa is a strange kind of animal. But there are many countries, like Ghana. Jerry Rawlings, I'm using Ghana as an example. Jerry Rawlings was a military leader. It's a long history. He had 2 coups. He took over. Then he consulted with his people about democracy, because the West puts pressure on these African countries to have open and free elections.
Right.
And these democratic reforms were necessary for them to get IMF money and to get aid and stuff from the outside world. You had to have elections and let the people choose their leaders. So Jerry Rawlings took off the military uniform and became a civilian, ran, and he won. And the reason he won, because he had won, when he was a military leader, he had won the hearts of his people by reforms and things that he wanted to do. And then they had 4-year terms. I disagree with them following what is called the Westminster system of democracy that started in England. I disagree with that.
Right.
Because you need more than 4 or 5 years running the country. I say that African leaders should have a 10-year term because they got to come from behind the ball. But when you got 4 years, after you're in office 2 years, you got to start campaigning, hoping to win for the next 4 years.
Right.
And the campaigning tears you apart from what you should do for your people and creates that kind of chaos. The Europeans have had years, hundreds of years to perfect their democracy, and it still has trouble.
Right.
And you're newly independent, you don't have the time to perfect your democracy as the Europeans do. So you need time in office to cultivate that. So there are political problems. But one thing that the African countries have done, years ago, you could go into this country of, look at Nigeria, and have a business, as Johnson opened his hair care business there, and when there was a coup, the coup nullified all the agreements. And he had to actually leave the country and leave his business there. So there was a saying that every 4 years in Nigeria, or 4 years or less, there's a coup. So if you can't get in and make all of your money and a profit in 4 years, don't even go. Because the change of government, you're going to lose everything anyway. But that kind of period is over. So when you go into a country, the first thing, you go in as a businessman. And you have to meet with the business community that want to see stable governments. If you try to get into the politics, who you like, who's in office, the Lebanese do it best. They're business people. Interesting story, and I got to make this quicker because I know we got to go. After World War I, when the Turkish Empire was crushed and the Germans and the Turks had hooked up, this is an interesting scenario, but if you want to understand it, Pat Buchanan has 2 books. The Death of the West is one of them, and the other one I can't call the name of it. But he talks about World War I was really about Turkey. Turkey was a Muslim, the Ottoman Empire was a Muslim empire that ruled most of the known world. And so they wanted to break the back of it. So the Lebanese got caught up in that, and Lebanon is right here, the little country. So they sailed trying to get to America. Refugees, as you see today, but they couldn't make it, so they started settling in West Africa. And they're the kind of businessmen, and I know them well, they're all over Africa now, that they don't get involved in the politics. They'll give donations to both parties that are running. But they stay clear of the politics so that they can do business.
Right.
They get caught up in the politics, and then when this man is voted in, he said, oh yeah, you were for the opposition party. And they'll crush your business or make it difficult for you. So if you're going to Africa for business, don't get hung up in the politics. I know that from Africa. Rawlings is a good man, and he loved Minister Farrakhan. He allowed us to have our convention there, and he was like my friend, my brother, in the 12 years that I lived there. And so when he was voted out, when his party lost, and the new party, the MPP, came in, they remembered and they began to strip away all of my perks. Like when I went to the airport, I went to the VIP lounge. When I checked in at the VIP lounge. And I could do other things, radio shows and whatnot.
Right.
And this party knew that I was in bed with Rollins' party, and they stripped away all of my perks. And it happens cold. I came in the country one time, was going to the VIP lounge, and they said, Akbar, you got to have a letter now. You're not permitted in here. You can't bring your guests in here. So that's because I got involved with the politics. But if you're going to do business in Africa, do business, remain neutral. And if you become wealthy, you can always make the contributions to parties because they're doing good things for the people. They're building a new school and so forth. You contribute to that, but stay away from the politics because it's deeply ingrained in them, and they believe in pain and punishment. They believe in that, okay? So thank you, brother, for the question. I'm gonna take this question. How many more have questions you'd like?
I just wanted to get some more information, sir, about investment, because I mean, it's gonna be hard for me to start a business. So the other thing I may have to look at is investment, and I was just wondering if there was any information about.
Okay, I'm gonna come to you. I'm gonna take him first. We can answer. Yusuf will come up. Yes.
I've been invited by the government of Senegal.
Senegal. Here's Senegal right here.
I sent my resume, and they invited me to come to Senegal to be interviewed, as they know that I have the qualification. They know where to put me to help the country. And my problem is, I don't know how long that I would be there because of that political thing. I'm not a politician, but I have thoughts about how long I'm going to be there if I'm hired by the government to come in and develop these oil fields that they have.
Okay, first, you set the guideline of what you want to do when you get there, okay? Because you're a man of knowledge in certain areas. The thing that I want people all the time, stay in your lane.
Yeah.
Okay? Because they'll ask you to do this. What do you know about this? Because you know a little about that, you jump over there. You say, this is what I know. This is what I know well, and I can do it. And if your needs are this, I can do that. But I can also consult and get other people who may be in the area over here that you want me to look at. The president, Macky Sall, they're Muslims now. 97%. 97%. There's two different groups of Muslims there, the Tijani brothers and the brothers who go to, they're called Marids, and they speak French. And a lot of them do speak English, but not too much. But it is an important country. It has the second largest slave dungeon in Goree Island there, which you would visit, and the Gambia sits in the middle. So when you go to those countries, number one, they invite you, they host you, they bring you in. What they sent for you, they got your resume. They didn't say for you to go to the airport, buy a ticket. And when they say buy a ticket and we'll reimburse you, I'm just giving you some information. You say, well, my company doesn't allow me to buy tickets in advance for trips like this, so you would have to do a prepaid ticket for me. That's step one, okay? And then in Africa, you meet people, and it's all over the world. In America, they call it consulting fees. In Africa, they call it corruption and graft. And so you have to understand those kind of dynamics. But I think it's a great opportunity for you. You send them your resume, but your resume and what you do, which is unique, you should send it to other countries in Africa. Namibia looks like, here's Namibia down here. Rich country, tremendous land area. The Germans used to rule it. Okay, then it was turned over to the South Africans during the time of apartheid. They fought a long struggle, became independent, but it seems like they are finding the traces of oil there, but also they have a big desert along the coast. And what they want to do is to find water. Water in landlocked countries in Africa is sacred, and between oil and water you fit in. So you can stretch it out, and it's an opportunity to use your knowledge to travel across the African country. I'm going to make the answers much shorter, but I wanted to say that too. The next hand that I saw, yes, and then you would be next, brother. Yes.
Yes, sir. I read a little something about, I don't remember the details, about dual citizenship of black people, as well as, any organization that gives grants, say up to $500,000.
Okay, he's going to talk about, I'm just going to say it generally. If you got a business established, Brother Yusuf will tell you how the SBA and the branches that will tell you, will give you a grant to travel to Africa. You gotta have a business idea, because one of our greatest weaknesses, we go to Africa, we can consult with because he has access to those funds. We can barely get there. We make one trip and we shot our load.
Right.
Okay, and can't get back to follow up. So on the question of dual citizenship, Brother Earl, the brother who is back there selling those maps, he and I went to Ghana. The president of Ghana, who just went out of power, was in Rawlings' party, and they called me one day, the end of December, and said, Akbar, our party lost the election. The election was December the 7th. He said, and if you want to get dual citizenship, you got to come over now, because we have to turn the government over to those that want it. And so I went to Ghana, and I got my dual citizenship.
Yes, sir.
This is my American passport. And I've been through quite a few of these because of my extensive travel. And this is my Ghana passport. So you say, well, what does it mean, Akbar? It means that I can do business in Ghana as a Ghanaian citizen. And it's different because there's restrictions on foreigners. There's guidelines on foreigners. But this passport takes me to 16 countries called the West African Community of West African States without getting a visa. You have to understand about these visas now, because if I was in Burkina Faso right here one time, and I wanted to go to the Ivory Coast, and they were having problems with each other. It's a long story. I'll tell them when I get back. And so I wanted to travel, because they told me I could not go to Ivory Coast unless I get a visa. And I said, well, how do I get a visa when the embassy of the Ivory Coast is closed down in Ouagadougou, the capital? They say, go to the French embassy. And I'll never forget it. I said, you know what it's like, brother? I'm going next door to your country to see my brother in this country, Cote d'Ivoire, or the Ivory Coast. And you telling me to go to the slave master,
Right.
in order the slave master to give me permission to go to my brother over here.
Right.
So when you have a passport, African passport, there's groups. The East African, Earl, what is the name of the East African community?
East African community.
The EAT, that's the East African community that embraces Rwanda, Kenya, Tanzania, and I'm sure the Southern Sudan, the new country of Southern Sudan, will join it. And I think that Mozambique may be in it, but Rwanda and Burundi, they belong to this community. And the dominant language in that area is Swahili. So this is dual citizenship. And you can't get one by remote. Right? I mean, sit in Denver here and say, I'm going to send my paperwork to become a dual citizen. First thing they say, in order to become a dual citizen of this country, you first got to visit the country at least. You can't just do it and sit back. So dual citizenship, and there's much more to it that we won't have time to explore. But thank you for the question. Now, my brother, yes.
Sir. Oh, I was just looking for more information about the investment in Africa. Basically, I mean, anyway, that's like you said, not war torn and not going through crisis and anything in conflict. That where you can, set yourself up as an investor as opposed to a business owner.
Okay. See, if you now they have stock exchange. They have the South African Stock Exchange. They have the Ghana Stock Exchange. They have the Ethiopian Stock Exchange. Kenya has one. And if you see an area on the stock exchange that you want to invest, or if you want to invest in building a business there, or if you want to invest in exporting things that are needed on the African continent from America, especially in the field of technology and so forth, that's the kind of investment. But if you're looking to access money for investment in some project in Africa, that's where Brother Youssef will come in and explain. And money is available. And it's not as hard as you think. We so used to getting turned down. We just take it for granted. We don't even apply for stuff. What is your credit score? The man that's trying to give you some money to invest overseas is not busy trying to scrutinize your credit score and see how many repos you have on your car. This is a different league. This is something different now. So there is money, and he'll explain to you. So yes.
As far as U.S. citizen purchasing land in Africa, how difficult is that, or how does that work?
It's not difficult at all. I have land in Ghana. And the land that I have in Ghana, I purchased the land. But there's something in certain countries in Africa where you buy land only for 99 years with the right to turn it over to your children. If you don't, it reverts back to, I almost use the term government land, but it's tribal land or school land, as we call it in Ghana. But the land always belongs to the people. So you buy it for 99 years, you make a deal, you either pay cash or you get a loan at the bank there for land. I know Ghana, but land is available all over Africa, and they say, we don't sell land. It's almost like a 99-year lease. You pay $1,500 for that plot of land that you have. It lasts you for 99 years. Before that time is up, when you think that God is going to call you home, you turn it over to your children, they got it for 99 years. So, and it's different rules in different countries. Okay, so that's all of my questions that I'm going to take. I'm going to turn it over to Brother Youssef. The questions that he will, as you don't forget to be at the table in the back, and you can pick up one of these maps or pick up both of the maps in the back. Thank you very much.
Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you, sir.
I'll be very brief. The information that I'm going to give on accessing capital